How Thomas Tuchel exposed Mourinho'S defensive system. Tottenham 0, Chelsea 1, a tactical analysis. For cheap good quality football jerseys, go over to www.jerseyfever.com. A link will be left in the description, and if you use the code atlantisfootball you'll get 5% off. Before I get into the analysis, just give me 40 seconds to tell you about the OneFootball app. I use this app to keep up to date with the latest football news, and I find it particularly useful during the transfer window as they have a section on the app that has all the latest done deals and the circulating rumours. If you go to the match section, you can find statistics from pretty much any match from any league in the world, which is what I like to do for games that I'm not able to watch in full, to give myself a general idea of how the game went, as well as the style of both sides in the match. If you're a fan of this channel, you'll definitely find this app useful, and you'll be helping to support the channel directly, so go and click the link in the description to get the OneFootball app. So going into the game, it looked like Tuchel was setting up his side in a 3-4-3 system with Mendy in goal, a back three of Azpilicueta and Rudiger either side of Thiago Silva, with a midfield double pivot of Jorginho and Kovacic sitting in front of them. Reece James and Alonso were the wing backs, with Mount and Hudson-Odoi looking like they'd be the ones to play in behind Werner up front. Mourinho used his usual 4-2-3-1 shape, with Lloris in goal, a centre-back pairing of Dyer and Alderweireld, with Aurier at right back, Davies at left back, with Højbjerg and Sissoko playing as a midfield double pivot. Ndombele started as a central attacking midfielder, with Bergwijn starting from the right, Son from the left, and Carlos Vinicius starting as a centre forward. From the start of the game, you saw that Chelsea's system in possession would become a 3-2-4-1, with the wing backs aggressively advancing up the field, providing the width, with Kovacic and Jorginho playing as a deep double pivot. Mount was playing as an advanced central midfielder ahead of those two, but we also saw Hudson-Odoi and Werner dropping deep from the forward line, with usually one of them doing this in the build-up phase. Mourinho's side sat off Chelsea in their defensive third, only pressing when they moved into the middle third. Tottenham used a 4-2-3-1 shape out of possession, with the front four incredibly narrow, as Son and Bergwijn would push infield as Bergwijn picked up one of Jorginho or Kovacic, with Ndombele pushing up onto the other. It also seemed like Vinicius was positioned over to the right side, which I assume was an attempt to force Chelsea to play down Tottenham's left side. Tuchel's possession system was incredibly effective at progressing the ball forward, and this was because the back three stretches out, and this gave Chelsea a wide base to circulate the ball around Tottenham's very narrow front four. It also helped that Azpilicueta as a natural right back, as in this right centre back position, he's encouraged to carry the ball forward and make runs up the pitch, as though he is a right back, and we saw this with his goal in Chelsea's previous game against Burnley. Mourinho's defensive shape seemed very strange. The front four seemed completely detached from the back six, as they pushed up onto Chelsea's deeper line players, while Sissoko and Højbjerg stuck tightly to Chelsea's attacking players, dropping between the lines. What this meant was that Højbjerg and Sissoko got pulled very deep, creating a massive space between Tottenham's midfield double pivot and the front four, and this meant that Mount was able to float into this space, receive the ball and turn, and then push the attack forward. We can even see here that Tottenham have fallen into a 5-1-4 defensive shape, with Sissoko dropping into the back line to track Hudson-Odoi's run, which leaves a massive amount of space in the centre of the field for Højbjerg to cover. Sissoko and Højbjerg's defensive positioning, whilst it did close up space between the midfield and defensive lines, it just left a massive space between the forward and midfield line, which was why Chelsea had such joy in moving the ball into attacking positions. Tuchel set up his side in a perfect possession shape. He knew that Mourinho's side would defend extremely narrow, so having Alonso and James as the wing-backs, who could constantly sit wide and stretch the pitch, gave Chelsea outlets to work the ball out to and have them carry the ball forward. Tottenham seemed to be in two minds about how to deal with this. Aurier would push up sometimes, looking to pressurise Alonso, but never really did it 100% or aggressively enough, making Tottenham's press ineffective in these areas. Now, despite these tactical elements seeing Chelsea dominate possession, pushing Tottenham back into their defensive third, this is nothing new from a Mourinho side, as we have seen him do this throughout this season. He did it against Manchester City, and I analysed that game, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the eye above. And in that match, Tottenham did win the game 2-0, sitting deep as they did in this game and looking to counter quickly. However, without Kane in the side, Mourinho's attacking system seems to fall apart. See, when Kane is up front, Tottenham essentially play with a narrow front three. Kane drops off as a false nine, looking to firstly receive the ball to feet, but also drag the centre-backs out of the back line to create space for the wide forwards Son and Bergwijn to make runs from out to in, into to receive a through ball in behind the back line. With no Kane in the side, Mourinho now tasks Son and Bergwijn with dropping deep in between the lines, playing as a linkmen in the system, with Vinicius sitting on the shoulder of the last defender. Kane is so good at dropping off into the space at the right time to open up a passing lane to then receive the ball, and he's also excellent at holding up the ball in that position when he's under pressure, and then having the vision, awareness and passing ability to either lay the ball off to bring the midfield into play, or play a killer through pass pass to find Son or Bergwijn's run in behind. With both Son and Bergwijn playing in between the lines in this game, Tottenham didn't have any penetration in behind the Chelsea back line, meaning that when their forward line did receive the ball, there wasn't a movement to then move the attack on, and this often resulted in a pass back to either Højbjerg or Sissoko, making it easy for Chelsea to compress the play and stop Tottenham moving the ball into the final third. In the build-up phase when in possession, Tottenham would have Højbjerg dropping deep to collect the ball from the centre-backs, creating a 3-3-3-1 possession shape with Aurier and Davies pushing up into Sissoko's line, and Son, Bergwijn and Ndombele playing as a free looking to receive the ball in behind Chelsea's midfield. If Tottenham could then move the ball into the middle third, Aurier would bomb down the right flank aggressively, whilst Davies would hold a deeper position on the left. The problem was that Tottenham didn't have enough of the ball in the middle third in the first half, as Chelsea were excellent at stopping the progression of the ball with their high press. Tuchel'S side would press in a man-to-man 3-4-1-2 shape when Tottenham were building up in their defensive third. The two split forwards, Werner and Hudson-Odoi, were ready to press the centre-backs when they received the ball. Mount would push up onto Højbjerg, whilst Jorginho and Kovacic would man-to-man press Sissoko and Ndombele, following them if they dropped deep to receive the ball. With all passing options cut off into the centre of the field, Tottenham were forced out wide to the fullbacks, and when this pass was made, James and Alonso were already positioned high up the flank and would therefore be able to aggressively press the fullback, penning Tottenham in and usually forcing a long ball. This was excellent from Tuchel, as if the wing-backs were more reserved with their pressing position, Tottenham would have been able to have a lot more joy progressing the ball into the middle third, by playing a pass wide to the fullbacks and having them carry the ball forward. Chelsea did take the lead from a Jorginho penalty midway through the first half, and the lead up to the foul on Werner showcased perfectly Tuchel's wide possession system, exploiting Mourinho'S narrow defensive shape, and also showed the importance of runners in behind the defensive line, with Chelsea's split strikers Timo Werner and Callum Hudson-Odoi being tasked with doing this throughout the match. We can see here that Chelsea are positioned in their 3-2-4-1 possession shape, with the back three stretched wide of the narrow Tottenham shape. Kovacic and Jorginho sitting in these central positions, with the wing-backs holding the width, and Mount looking to drop into the space between the Tottenham midfield and forward line. From a Tottenham perspective, this shape is far too narrow, and because they are trying to go man-to-man on Chelsea's midfielders, the system gets dragged narrow into a weird lopsided 4-2-3-1 shape. This means that while the passes in field are cut off, one pass out wide to the wide centre-back, and the whole Tottenham front line are bypassed. Mourinho should have instructed Vinicius to be positioned in this wider, deeper position to stop Azpilicueta carrying the ball forward, and then have Ndombele press Silva on the ball while simultaneously positioning himself in a way that cuts off the pass into Jorginho behind him. The pass goes into Azpilicueta, and because of his wide position, he can carry the ball forward into the Tottenham half. Reece James' is wide but rather deep positioning means that Ben Davies is pulled high up the pitch, looking to stop Azpilicueta's pass into him. What this does is it opens up a massive space between the left-sided centre-back Alderweireld and the left-back Ben Davies for Callum Hudson-Odoi to make a run into down the channel. Now at this point, Tottenham's shape isn't terrible. It resembles that of a back five, however Sissoko has tracked back from midfield following Hudson-Odoi's run from deep, so he isn't able to get goal side of Hudson-Odoi, so doesn't have the correct body positioning that a player who is already positioned in that defensive line would have, which should see his body a little more open, which would allow him to potentially cut out Azpilicueta's through ball, which goes inside of him. Alderweireld should also be more aware of Werner's run and position himself a bit wider to cut off the pass, but Azpilicueta's curling through ball is perfect to find Werner's well-timed run, and he's brought down, which leads to Jorginho putting Chelsea in front from the penalty spot. Chelsea did have the lead at half-time, dominating the game, with Tottenham not creating enough, as seen as they had an XG of just 0.08. Chelsea's XG is inflated here due to the penalty, which made up about 0.76 of their 0.94 XG in the first half, but they were still controlling the game. So in the second half, Mourinho did make a change to his pressing system, instructing his front four to stretch out wider and to engage Chelsea in a man-to-man press in their defensive third, which initially stopped Chelsea being able to progress the ball into the final third as much, and therefore not pushing Tottenham back. However, the Tottenham press was still far from what you'd call an effective high press, as there was still a massive disconnect between the front four and six behind them. We see here Ndombele is cutting off the pass into Azpilicueta, Vinicius is pressing Christensen on the ball, and Son is ready to press Jorginho. However, when the pass goes into Jorginho, because the Tottenham midfield double pivot of Højbjerg and Sissoko are so deep, Chelsea are able to beat Tottenham's high press with Jorginho's pass into Kovacic, who can turn and drive the attack forward, taking the Tottenham front four out of the game and progressing the play into the middle third. I'm not sure why Mourinho is so obsessed with having Højbjerg and Sissoko retain such deep positions, as while it stops the space in between the midfield and defensive lines being created, it just creates space in behind the front line, making it easy for Chelsea to then bypass the press. Another example of Mourinho's conservative style of play affecting the team's pressing is here, as Tottenham have pressed aggressively in Chelsea's box, leading to Mendy playing a pass into Rudiger. If Aurier was positioned higher up the pitch like James was for Chelsea during their press, then when Rudiger plays the pass into Alonso, he can instantly assert the press and pen Chelsea into their defensive third, but instead Aurier is instructed to retain a deeper position, leading to Chelsea being able to bypass their press yet again. Kovacic and Jorginho were excellent under pressure, with Jorginho being able to play short passes quickly in order to not get caught in possession, and Kovacic being very good at dribbling out from under pressure and breaking the press. With the increased space in central midfield now because of Tottenham's higher, yet still dysfunctional press, Chelsea were able to move the ball into the final third more often and therefore create more chances, as seen by the end of the game. They had recorded an XG of 2.39, with Tottenham recording an XG of just 0.57. This was because Chelsea's defensive shape continued to be solid throughout the second half, not falling into the trap of dropping off and inviting pressure, instead continuing to press man to man high up the pitch in Tottenham's defensive third. However, Mourinho's attacking system without Kane in it is unable to work the ball into the final third and then create from those positions as effectively. Vinicius was pretty poor in terms of his hold-up play throughout the game, and with Son and Bergwijn being told to drop deep between the lines to make up for the loss of Kane's creativity, Tottenham lacked those constant diagonal runs in behind Chelsea's back line, which seemed to be Tottenham's best method of creating, considering Chelsea's back line were pushed high up the pitch. Tuchel also made a few clever tactical changes, bringing on Pulisic in order to give Chelsea increased ability to carry the ball through the middle third into the final third, which was a direct response to Mourinho's change in press, and also his decision to bring on Kante into that midfield double pivot later on in the game to increase their ball winning ability, which came just at the right time in the game. So overall, a very impressive tactical display from Tuchel, both in and out of possession, which also showcased his tactical versatility when coming up against specific systems. Mourinho's problems are nothing new. I spoke about them in a video at the end of last season, which will be linked in the description, and in this game and throughout the season, the same chance creating problems are persisting because of Mourinho's ultra conservative style of play, which also affects their ability to press aggressively, as seen in the second half of this game. I may do a video looking specifically at Mourinho's decline over the past few seasons, so if you want to see that, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. I also have a video coming out soon comparing Thomas Souček to Marouane Fellaini, so make sure you click the bell to get notified when I release that, and check out some of my other videos which will be linked in the description. Also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Flick.